You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Fabulous Pelton Cast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And for the first time since 2020, your Seattle Seahawks have won a playoff game. For the first time since 2015, they are headed to and once again hosting the NFC Championship game after dominating the San Francisco 49ers 41-6 on Saturday night. You were there. What was it like?
Well, so I don't know if it was that different watching on TV versus being there in person, but I do think one of the biggest differences was I underestimated a little bit the amount of Niners fans that were in the building, because it was still quite a few Niners fans. And it's funny because I keep describing the Seahawks team as being like a college football team. You are not supposed to dominate playoff games in the way that the Seahawks dominated this playoff game. And then, as I was annoyed with the Niners fans in the building, I remembered where many Niners fans come from. And I realized they must be used to this because of the ass kickings that their team has taken year after year to juggernauts like Indiana, like Ohio State, like your Seattle Seahawks. This is normal for them. They weren't that bothered by it, if I'm being honest. They're used to paying $600 to see their team get their ass kicked. And I think the interesting thing about it is the college team thing that I'm saying, which is there are magnitudes of difference between this Seahawks team and that 49ers team that we saw this week. Somehow that team beat the Eagles. The Eagles are James Madison University right now. That is what is going on across the NFL. That is who the Seattle Seahawks team is. 41-6 in a game that I'm sure you're going to be gloating about your bold prediction for the year 2020-26 about. 2020-26. All of them.
Off, I feel like I was wrong because there was a lot of people out there that said the San Francisco 49ers were a bad team. There were a lot of people that said this was a mismatch, and I questioned that. And they were right in totality.
Who said that? You're saying in this week leading up to it?
Yeah.
I will say I felt like on the podcast, I mean, I think we were both wrong because we were both like, it's going to be a closer game than the last time. And it turns out, but I also
actually was a relatively close game. It just was probably, I thought it was going to be more offensive for the Niners.
No, me too. But that's why it was such a pathetic performance by the Niners is Kyle Shanahan went into the lab and this is what he came out with. Kyle Shanahan does not have answers. We're not looking at the end of this Niners season. This is the dynasty is over. As much as you can have a dynasty with 0 Super Bowls. The era is over right now. Like we're not going to be seeing from this team again. We should probably start preparing for, I don't know, Cleveland Browns head coach Kyle Shanahan in a different place, because it's not going to be with the Niners that it's going to happen. Mike Macdonald has ended it. He has ended it for them. And that, like, just what they went to and what they came back with. But I do think I thought going into this game that it would be a closer game than the last one, because I had a little bit more faith in that team.
Previous game was close in terms of points.
I mean closer in like talent wise, right? I thought it would be like a closer game because it wasn't a close game that they played. Sure, points it was, but it wasn't a close game that those two teams played.
It was a close game. It wasn't a competitive game. Those are different.
I thought it would be a more competitive game. And it turns out that but I also said, there's no reason to think this statistically. That is not a good team on the other side of the field. And they're playing one of the best teams in NFL history. It was more of just like,
we're 7th in DVOA or whatever they were.
7th? No, I mean, we're the 7th of all time, but they were 7th this season. So that's cool, you know?
But that's the point, is the 7th of all time is the more notable than the 7th this season. Like, there's 8 teams left in the playoffs. Odds are one of them is going to be around 7th, especially if you're hypothetically facing the weakest team in the conference as the number 1 seed. But to your point, here are the margins of victory in the other NFL playoff games so far this year. 3, 4, 3, 4, 13, 24. Houston over Pittsburgh was a little bit lopsided.
Who we'll see in a few weeks. I'm not talking about the Steelers.
This is preposterous. 3 in overtime earlier today with the Broncos beating the Bills, and then a 35 from the
Bam.
Seahawks.
A 35. That's what I'm saying. This is not supposed to happen.
They were almost up as much at the end of the first quarter when they led 17-0 as anyone else had won by all playoffs long. And the way to get it all started, Rashid Shaheed quickly going down, one of the great trades in Seahawks
Oh my God.
history.
Yeah, no.
Third return touchdown of the season.
Any complaints that I remember we left that draft and I was like, they drafted a freaking guard in the first round. I'm sorry, John Schneider. Like, just go sweat your pits off. Do whatever you would like to do, John Schneider. That trade, just adding Rashid Shaheed to this team. I mean, I would say I would give him not single-handed credit for winning the Rams game, but like Rashid Shaheed personally deserves a lot of credit for winning that Rams game. And for this one, setting the tone of, as he was taking that touchdown back, I thought it was going to be a penalty on the Niners that when I saw the flag go out, because I thought I saw the trip happen, but it was like, I was cautious. I wasn't going to celebrate until after the flag was announced, or, seeing like the kicking team out there or whatever. I was like, okay, this is probably a touchdown. I did say to Chris after that, I was like, the game's over. We know it. And I think that Niners fans deep down knew it too.
I don't know that it would go that far.
You don't be 7 to 7.5 point underdogs and go on the road to the 7th best team of all time and spot them a touchdown.
So RBSDM.com, their win probability had it as 88%.
Those fans
Seahawks.
are used to it. They saw a pick 6 in the first play of the game just a week ago. They're aware of what this is like. That team at least mustered a touchdown, but
They did very quickly come back. The Seahawks were about 70% coming into this game, according to their win probability model, and then moved to 88% with the Sheed touchdown. So an 18% win probability swing on the opening play of the game. And just like, how jacked up was the crowd in that moment?
Oh, it was very nuts. And this was the best crowd that we've seen probably since the Seahawks last won a home playoff game. I think in Seattle, there was an atmosphere back. We were standing the entire time on defense.
I would guess it had to be better then. I mean, that was 2017, the last time
we hadn't lost it yet. It was still part of the same. That's what I've been trying to say. Is like,
but
there was a whole era. That is not. I was there. I am telling you, you're wrong. I was in the building, and I'm not misremembering it. It got lost in later Pete Carroll era and coming out of the pandemic, especially because we just kept getting our ass kicked at home. Like, of course, it was bound to happen, but the atmosphere was still good for that Lions playoff win. Like, the home atmosphere was still good. Actually, there were some games after that era where it was, but it got lost after that. This was the first time that the Lumen Field Seahawks home crowd was back, and having that moment happen to kick it off, whereas like you lose the toss, you're like, oh, I would have preferred to have the ball in the second half, but maybe we'll go down and score. And then they went down and scored. And I'm sure other people have noted this. If you look at the final score, they won this game in the first 13 seconds.
Can you win a game on the opening kickoff? But that speaks to, and you said it, yes, my bold prediction was that the Seahawks would not allow a touchdown in their opening playoff game. You joked earlier this week offline that if I had just said they will not allow their opening playoff opponent to score a touchdown in a game in 2026. That was some fun. Don't need it because the Niners went another game against the Seahawks without scoring a touchdown. They have now gone 19 consecutive drives against the Seahawks, not counting the kneel downs at the end of week 1 after the Jake Tonjes go-ahead touchdown without scoring a touchdown.
How many times the Seahawks have stopped the Niners on 4th downs? I don't know what the number was in the last game. Oh, do we have this?
So there's been 19 drives. 2 of them there was the end of both halves today. They ended up possessing the ball. So it's 17 if you take those away. 3 field goals, 5 punts, 4 turnovers, and 5 turnovers on downs.
This team is incredible on 4th downs against the Niners. I mean, so like if we want to look at this just even sort of like after that first series, right? Seahawks scored the touchdown. I was still in the mindset of maybe the Niners will move the ball in this game. And like they gained some yards there, right? There was some space, especially early on. We get to that 4th and 1, and I'm like, what's Kyle Shanahan gonna drop? And he was like, you know what play I really like?
After a Seahawks timeout, like right as the play was happening, did you realize in the stadium that play was
Yeah, I
shut
knew.
down? Okay.
Yeah.
You have a pretty good vantage point for it.
I know everything that's going on, every penalty that's happening, everything that's going on.
Unclear
like,
what was going on with Charles Cross.
Injuries, I don't know anything. I'm talking about like on the field, what you could see. Like, I know mostly what's going on. Injuries happen. You knew
that it was
going to
be a touchdown when Zach Charbonnet picked up that backwards pass in the 2-point conversion.
100%.
Yeah. I'm telling everyone around you.
But so Kyle Shanahan was like, do you remember that Apple Cup that was at Lumen Field? He was like, you want to get the ball into athletic players' hands like Will Rogers or Kyle Juszczyk and have them run an option play in this situation. He was like,
to the short side.
I liked what happened that time. Let's run that back. When I saw that happen, I was just like, what are you doing here? I mean, I saw the handoff initially to Juszczyk, and I was just like, well, that's a bad idea. And then to see that it was an option to Christian McCaffrey was just like, at what point when you're drawing this up, does somebody in the room go, hey, you know, we're running an option play with Kyle Juszczyk to Christian McCaffrey, right? And that never happened. There's no person. This is unchecked confidence going on right now. This is the type of situation where people were like, I maybe needed somebody in the room who was willing to say no. But Kyle Shanahan has nobody in that room who's willing to say no because they ran that play on 4th down. They practiced that all week. They practiced that play.
He didn't come. I don't know if that was Seahawks specific.
He did not come up with it, right? Right in that moment. At some point,
but
Kyle
I'm saying that could have been something they practiced in training camp, not necessarily that it was like in the game plan.
No, there's no way that they'd call that without a big practice this week, right? Or at least discussed. They sat down, they went into the lab, and they thought to themselves, you know what's going to work against the Seahawks defense that knows all of our plays? The Kyle Juszczyk option. That is the play that they called. I can't even, it's chef's kiss. I'm like, you bitches can't even install a fucking tush push? Like, honestly, out of self-respect, you couldn't have Juszczyk do that? This is what you drew up? Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. And all the Niners fans around us, like, you know, they had to be like, damn, we just gave up an opening drive, kickoff return touchdown, and came back with this shit sandwich. It's nice. It
spoke to what hell the Seahawks had the Niners running game in. I mean, obviously the Niners running game has not been very good all season, but their short yardage.
What hell the league has had this Niners running game in. And that was the other thought that I had. They were not a Trent Williams away.
Clearly they were not, but I don't know that they were notably bad. I have no idea how they did specifically in short yardage situations. And the whole reason there was a 4th and 1 situation there is because they had 3rd and 1. And Christian McCaffrey gets completely blown up by the combination of Byron Murphy II and Uchenna Nwosu on that 3rd down play and gains nothing. Like,
absolutely. So I do think
the best of a series of amazing plays by the Seahawks run defense against Christian McCaffrey touching the ball.
As we're discussing them, there are various retired bitches to be handed out, of course. As we're discussing this, I was thinking to myself about how this is the end of the Niners era, right? It's done. It's finished. And it's funny because last week there was a player, Saquon Barkley, had a pretty good game, all things considered, against this Niners run defense, which granted it wasn't Ken Walker numbers, but it was Saquon in that one who had a better game than he normally has. I think next season and for this season, we have to enshrine him with the name because he's probably not going to retire, bitch, even though he should, with Christian McCaffrey. It was nice knowing you. It was a great career you had. I've hated you since Stanford, right? You've managed to. I don't have the hate in my heart for Stanford anymore that I used to, right? But I was able to work it up again tonight. No, I actually still do. I take that back. I take it back. The hatred in my heart, it's even personal now. No one knows what I'm talking about, but it is personal now for Stanford. And that is why Christian McCaffrey, here's the first of them. You can retire, bitch. Thank you. I appreciated the 11 carries for 35 yards, and they worked hard for those 11 carries for 35 yards. They went out of their way for some of them, where it was like there was a 1-yard gain that they had. I want to say this was like late in the second quarter at some point.
The flicker?
No, not that one. That was a different one. because that wasn't a Christian McCaffrey run.
Oh, right, of course. Yes.
There was a play where they did it where it was like there was so much movement and shit, and they got to a Christian McCaffrey gain of a yard, and I was like, damn, you motherfuckers just work so hard for that.
I mean, to your point about the league having the 49ers run game in hell, I looked at Christian McCaffrey stats. There's like nothing.
No, sorry, not Christian McCaffrey stats. Washed Christian McCaffrey stats.
Sorry. Washed Christian McCaffrey stats. Running backs don't matter. But no, if you look at,
it was a great career of being so annoying, from Stanford to the Panthers to the Niners, of being a foil in our side at all of these different points. And it's so sad that it's over for washed Christian McCaffrey.
If you look at the Niners offense as a whole, this was a great stat.
I looked at it as a whole. I viewed the whole thing.
This is from JP Acosta, who had this stat. In Brock Purdy's starts, the 3 worst EPAs per play. The single worst was the NFC Championship game where he got hurt and Garoppolo was also hurt, right? And they just had to like keep playing him or go to a third string. I don't know. They had no credible quarterback. That was number 1 worst.
I loved it.
Number 2 and number 3
I've loved all
worst
3 of these, if we're being honest.
Were the last 2 games for the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm kind of shocked it wasn't the previous Mike Macdonald performance also against the Ravens.
I'd have to go double check how bad that was. But
so the other thing is, I saw on ESPN, the headline is Seahawks dominate hobbled 49ers to advance. And it was just like, in what world is that what happened in this game? They dominated the 49ers to advance. But this idea that the Niners were hobbled in this game, they weren't one Fred Warner away. They were not one George Kittle away.
Hobbled, but yes, I agree. That's not the
Seahawks
reason they
dominated. How big does a spread have to be in these Seahawks games? Are we talking about like we're going to have a Super Bowl where it's Seahawks minus 20.5? Because that's what it's going to need to be right now. Wow. We've seen this team play throughout this season. The only difference would be whether they want to try hard in the second half or not, because they've had many games that they haven't had to. And I did think to myself early on, I was like, this is like the Commanders game, right? Like they didn't quite dominate as quickly as they did in that game. But ultimately, that's kind of what it most reminded me of, was when you look at the Seahawks possessions throughout this game, and I was surprised Sam Darnold's QBR wasn't higher as well. But it's like touchdown on the kick return, field goal on a pretty good drive, touchdown, the punt on a play where Darnold, he was just like, did they show this on TV that Cooper Kupp was just wide open for a first down?
I don't recall seeing it on TV, but Brady did mention like he has 3 guys open and he chose the guy who's covered.
Dude, it was a Sam Darnold heat check. It was a little bit of,
it was.
He had Cooper Kupp wide open. I mean, there was not for anybody for a mile for a first down. And he's like, fuck it. I see Rashid Shaheed one-on-one. I'm going to throw the ball. So I appreciated it, honestly. That was one where I was like, yes, the Seahawks punted, but you know what? Do your thing, Sam Darnold.
But I'm not ready to talk about the Seahawks offense yet. I still want to talk about the Seahawks defense.
Okay.
Can I give you a Niners wide receiver stat? Because we talked in the preview.
They have wide receivers on the team?
They do. About DeMarcus Robinson in the enormous game that he had against the Eagles. Obviously, they got
shit. Did he suit up today?
He did.
This is a legit question. Where I'm like,
he had 1 catch for 1 yard. I believe he was on the receiving end.
He was the receiver. Oh my God. Oh, like we have to.
Or no, it was a screen. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't
on that play. We have to give credit to Drake Thomas as well, because that's who I remember in week 1. It was more Ty Okada, but it was like a lot of Drake Thomas out there, and I was like, damn. I remember early on in the season being like, I thought Mike Macdonald had this figured out, and he's got Drake Thomas and Ty Okada on the field. And now I'm like, Mike Macdonald has this figured out. He has Drake Thomas and Ty Okada on the field.
The Niners wide receivers, they got Ricky Pearsall back, had that costly drop that was originally ruled a catch on the field. But you
that was also my favorite. Because again, the game wasn't close enough for me to even care that much about the game. It was more just like the suffering of the Niners fans was what I had to cheer for. And they're like, yes, we did it. And they were like, and this is a quote from a Niners fan to another. They're like, he made the catch and he got up and he's fine. And I was like, I was like, I feel like that one, like, I couldn't tell that it bounced or whatever, but it was one where I was like, that didn't look super close or super clean. And then they overturned that. And that is the kind of pain that you love to see. What about Juwan Jennings?
He had a 23-yard catch. Uh, there were 10 total targets to San Francisco 49ers wide receivers in this game. 10 targets. They caught three of them, two by Jennings, the one yard catch by Demarcus Robinson. They went for 24 yards in this game. 24 yards receiving. The much like the week 1 final drive, but not much like its success. It was the offense for the Niners was oops all Tonjes.
Oops, just well, except when it wasn't. I mean, the fumble that he had was pretty costly.
But that's what I'm saying is, he had as many catches. He had 5 catches. McCaffrey had 5. Everybody else on the team combined had 7.
There could have been more turnovers in this game too, where like oops all Tonjes. There were a couple of plays. Maybe this wasn't highlighted, where it was like they managed to get people just like doing some of like the orbit routes beforehand, and Nicky Manwari kind of forgot about him. And so that's what they had a couple of drives on. One of the field goal drives, they got a couple of chunks of yards. Other than that,
was this the Purdy throwing back across his body?
Not that one. This was two different plays. Kind of, I think it was earlier in the third quarter, and the third quarter field goal. No, I guess they didn't even get a third quarter field goal. Maybe it was in the third quarter, but then they ended up punting. I don't remember which series was, but there were a couple of consecutive plays. No, it was the one where they were pinned deep, and then they came down and hit the field goal. Where Nicky Manwari got lost on a couple of just players who drifted, where he was covering them and then started floating toward Brock Purdy, and then Brock Purdy was able to throw it back. It was one to Tonjes and one to McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Other than that, like the amount of plays that they had to make that were so difficult to make. I mean, the Niners receivers also screwed some of this up too. Like there was the Juwan Jennings drop where it's just like, I don't know how you drop that one, right? Where he has it in his hands and it gets hit out.
And got a hand on it. So
still, that's many other receivers make that play. But the one that was like across the middle of the field where I want to say Ernest Jones jumped for it, and Ernest Jones' hand was very, very close to it. Like they had to work hard for everything in this game for their, what was it? 3.9 yards per play. 3.9 yards per play.
I didn't actually bother to check.
It was desperation to get to 9 yards per play. And then the turnovers. And I guess I have to have a second retire bitch for Brock Purdy. Retire bitch. Because what a performance by Brock Purdy. I mean, he should have had another fumble too. Like there was one where it was like, I think it might've been Lawrence who was close to stripping it out. Then they do get the strip when Purdy is running. The pick that he threw where you're watching it, and like my vantage point, I was just watching it, and I was like, I looked at all the receivers. I could see Brock Purdy look at all the receivers, and I was like, wow, you really decided to throw it to that one. And it really just straight to Ernest Jones.
I thought Purdy played a really good first half, and that it was his teammates letting him down in the first half. In the second half, it went off the rails for Brock Purdy. It was
last pick in the draft type performance. I genuinely think
it was not that.
I think if Mac Jones was out there, they play. I bet they play a closer game.
We saw what it looks like when you put a quarterback like that against the Seattle Seahawks. They scored 0 points against the Seahawks and had even more hilarious term. Max Brosmer.
That's not Mac Jones, though. Mac Jones is a
no, but you're saying
Sam Darnold.
Mac Jones was the first round pick. You said last pick in the draft performance. I'm telling you what that looks like. We saw it was the Vikings.
Great, fine. What was his QBR? I mean, Brock Purdy got to 37.4, so must not have taken much to get to 140 yards.
We saw pick. Pretty good scrambling from Brock Purdy.
Oh, that's cool. That's a pretty nice scrambling.
Let's start with the Seahawks offense now.
I also just want to say, dating back to one more person who has to retire, bitch. That's John Lynch, of course. And John Lynch, retire, bitch! Because this team they're not talented. They don't even have good players on the team at this point. They're held together 12 wins against just garbage opponents, and somehow an upset over us in week 1, right? In a game that Mike McDonald hadn't figured out yet. And Sam Darnold fumbled, right? Sam Darnold gets hit and fumbled. Seahawks probably should have just won the game.
I would say Kubiak hadn't figured it out yet. The Niners offense didn't really do that well in the game. Obviously, they weren't dominated to this degree. It was
a Bears game
the
that
one
the Bears
play
should
action.
have won. A Rams game that I don't even know how they won along the way. Did Alchemy maybe? I'm not sure. But, excited for the victories against the Panthers, the Browns, the Titans, the Cardinals, and a team that's 12 games for an untalented roster across the board, because that's what this Niners team is. They're not just outcoached across the field. They don't even have talent on the team. And I will tell you, they had talent a few years ago, and he now just won the NFC divisional round for your Seattle Seahawks. So thank you to the San Francisco 49ers and to the Minnesota Vikings for one Sam. Wait, what's his middle name?
I have not the slightest clue what Sam Darnold's middle name is.
I knew this for a second. I did. Sam Richard Darnold, because that man just won himself a playoff game today, playing what I thought was a pretty excellent game across the board. And I said to Chris before the game, right? Obviously, we get the report from Adam Schefter yesterday, maybe the Thursday, where it was like, Sam Darnold has a pectoral injury. He's being listed as questionable. And if I like everybody else, didn't panic at all because I knew the defense was going to win the game. But I did panic for next week. So, and there's a reality that Drew Lock could have quarterbacked that game because they didn't need more than the first 13 seconds. Didn't matter. And I said to Chris, because this is my expert analysis that you get here on the podcast, of whether Sam Darnold, you see a questionable listing, there's reports back and forth. A lot of people being like, he's fine. Adam Schefter being like, he hasn't thrown since Thursday. He didn't throw on Thursday or Friday.
Well, there were reports saying that he was fine. Sam Darnold said he was fine.
Well, that's a report. He's a pretty important reporter to me.
No, the reporting has to come off the record for it to be useful in this case.
So the analysis that I gave to Chris was, because you're like, this is either nothing or it's something. And that's what I said. Either Sam Darnold, this is going to affect him, or it's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first pass he threw.
Yeah, no, that was the one pass. It was the second pass. He threw a pass to Ken Walker across the middle.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, on a like short completion. So the second pass that he threw. But yeah, no, I was like, oh.
He threw it to Jonathan, and it was nowhere near him. And it turned out to just be, I don't know, there was miscommunication. I don't know that anyone asked him about it post game. I would love to know like what happened on that one particular pass, because then, you know, he has a 5-yard completion to Cooper Kupp, but I do think that was like actually a legitimate pass. And you're like, okay, we're fine here. We're good. And the other thing that happened, of course, is that the Seahawks kept moving the ball on that drive on the ground, which was a story of this game.
I mean, I think we kind of knew that was going to happen because of how bad the Niners run defense is. Like that was it was something that was a given.
I don't know if it was a given. It was a hope, certainly.
No, they were going to run the ball well in this game. Like the Niners run defense is bad, right? I would tell Robert Saleh to retire, bitch. I mean, he's the defensive coordinator. Like he already got fired recently. I think that would just be too negative. The idea that people are interviewing for head coaching positions because he coached this Niners defense, I was like, so is anybody being interviewed for head coaching positions?
If you want to talk about talent, like the Niners defensive talent, it was all on the sidelines.
No. Okay, fine. We won't give him one. It was who? Fred Warner? This team.
And Bosa? Do you recall the guy who had the strip sack to win week 1?
Never heard
familiar with him?
Haven't heard of him. He could also retire, bitch. Career's over. But the other person who I think has to retire, bitch, is ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton. Retire, bitch.
Oh, wow.
Because you argued that Tyler Lockett was going to be a more valuable player this year than Cooper. Wait, what's his middle name?
I don't know that this is actually what I argued, for the record.
Then one Cooper Douglas Cup, who had maybe the best game of his season tonight in a monster performance. The play after Darnold takes the sack on the drive that ended up being a touchdown, where Darnold takes that sack and it's 2nd and 18. And you're just like, fuck. And then the
2nd and 20
to Cooper Kupp that he had, where I was like, damn, Coop is showing up today. I mean, he could have even had a better performance, but to get this performance from Cooper Kupp, 5 targets, 5 catches, 60 yards, leading the team in yardage, which is, I mean, I'm sure they were a little bit of like, we didn't need to show that much, right? We had to give them just enough in this game. And JSN had the beautiful catch across the end zone, which is one of those plays that it's like the end zone right in front of us. So you could see it develop and you're like, again, expert analysis. He's either getting there or he's not in that one, but like seeing JSN play that wasn't quite Tyler Lockett level against the Rams, but it wasn't not that. It was a great play for that touchdown.
It was a great throw. JSN in this game, his lowest total EPA in any game this season.
Incredible. That's fine. You know, like we'll take it. If If it's a situation where the Seahawks win 41-6, I'm okay with that.
Of course, the goal is not for JSN to play well. The goal is for the Seahawks offense to play well. And what the Seahawks need is when teams are focused on shutting down JSN for Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed to be able to take advantage of it. Shaheed wasn't a big factor in terms of catching passes today, but did have the huge pass interference penalty that he drew downfield, and then obviously the 30-yard end around that was
Oh
really
my
key to
God.
getting the Seahawks offense
No,
going.
the amount of space he had on that play. And it was funny because the fans just waited, right? They didn't start cheering that much. And I kind of love when that happens, when everybody just watches the whole play develop, because it was a little bit of like Rashid Shaheed. You have this feeling when you're watching him of like, I see that there are defenders 20 yards downfield who are probably going to tackle him, but you're like, he might break this off for a touchdown here.
Can't rule it
Because
out.
we've seen Rashid Shaheed in space. That play call it was a thing of beauty.
But the Seahawks run game, so they're 5.8 rushing EPA in this one. They're second highest this season behind week 16 against the Rams. And notably, their best three games of the season have been week 16, week 17. Really, it wasn't week 18 versus the Niners, despite your skepticism about their run defense. That was only the seventh best EPA of the season. And then tonight. So this running game is getting going at the right
I
time.
mean, Ken
And
Walker
that's
was 16 carries for 97 yards at 6 yards per carry in that one. So I don't like, yes, sure, but Ken Walker had a very good game in that one too.
for sure, but not as good as this one, where 19
Yeah.
for 116 yards
No,
and three
Ken Walker,
touchdowns.
I have been fully, my perspective on Ken Walker has fully changed. He's played a great season.
I mean, I still am somewhat more confident when Zach Charbonnet has the ball in his hands. And obviously, he left this one with a knee injury. Mike McDonald said afterwards that they're optimistic that he avoided structural damage, but still has to get an MRI to confirm that early optimism. So we ended up seeing Ken Walker the third for 19 carries, and then Velus Jones Jr., promoted from the practice squad, gets 6 carries in this one.
That was
And
kind of wild. There was a couple plays early before the like basically garbage time carries that Velus Jones got, where he was in the game, and I was like, they're not actually going to hand it off to Velus Jones, are they? And then they didn't. They had other plays where I was like, okay, I'm fine with that.
but it speaks, I think, to the offensive line and the development of, the run blocking that we've seen over the course of the season. And, obviously it was very important in this one because it was such a weakness for the 49ers. I think it's going to continue to be important. I would say to go back to Darnold's health, like, so there was the report this morning that Darnold had not thrown since the injury, which was just Friday's practice. Didn't warm up initially in front of the Niners and the crowd in this one before coming out after being listed as active for this one, once it was clear that he was in fact going to play and start, and Jalen Milroe not being on the active roster, being the designated third quarterback, also made that clear. I I would say as much as the throwing, my concern with an oblique strain for Sam Darnold was going to be his ability to like handle the football, carry out the play action fakes, that sort of thing, the stretch handoffs, and there just wasn't an issue on that at all. So all very encouraging, although Darnold did say after the game, it's going to be an injury he's going to have to continue to manage going forward.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't, who knows? It'll either affect him next week or it won't.
Again, more of that
Yeah.
dynamite drop in.
Yeah.
Dynamite drop in. The other injury scare that we had during this game, Charles Cross left with a foot injury after having previously been out with a knee injury. Backup Josh Jones, who was out this week with a knee injury, having previously dealt with an ankle injury in week 18, but started anyway in that one against the Niners with Cross unavailable. That left undrafted rookie Amari Kite at left tackle for the last two Seahawks
I gotta
TD
say,
drives.
ran for a touchdown right to the side of Amari
Pretty
Kite.
good. Yeah, he only played 4 offensive snaps during the regular season, 2 at Arizona, 2 in Week 18 versus San Francisco. Mike McDonald said that decision was mostly precautionary. They, again, still have to get the foot checked out, but hopefully not an issue for Charles Cross's availability. And if that's the case, then, Seahawks will head into the NFC Championship game pretty remarkably healthy for this time of year.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't have to try that hard during the regular season. as the Seahawks have not had to for many weeks in a row. You could have Julian Sane healthy. You could have Fernando Mendoza healthy. You could have Sam Darnold healthy. That's what happens when you dominate teams like this. And you have that level of talent. Even in the NIL era, it still happens. You can have all of the best players on the field. And that's what the Seahawks have. Salary cap be damned.
Do you want to talk about tomorrow? The NFC Championship game opponent?
Like who we're cheering for? So, okay, this is hard for me. Because there's two elements at bay here, which is I would love to play the Rams, right? Like I think it would be the most fun to play a game. And granted, the Rams are probably the only team that I think can play with the Seahawks team, excluding nobody, right? DVOA had them as the 10th best team of all time. They've shown it, right? Their offense can play better against the Seahawks defense. I would love for the Seahawks defense to have another shot at revenge because they're aware of those yards that they gave up to Matt Stafford the last time. The hard part is I always cheer against the Rams, and I like the Bears. So it's a little bit like either way, it'll be fine. Whatever team's coming to Seattle, and it'll be a fun game no matter what. So I don't really have a strong preference, but I do when we're there and watching the game. Am I gonna not cheer for the Bears? There's no way I'm gonna not be cheering against the Rams. I've been cheering against the Rams since fucking years. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be tomorrow that I'm gonna change. Right? A game tomorrow doesn't make their illegitimate Super Bowl legitimate, right? I've been doing this for years.
I do like this setup that the Seahawks are in. We can just kick back and watch the game, scout ahead for the NFC Championship game. And
yeah, it's important for us to scout.
Well, we're going to have to do a podcast about it where we will make inaccurate projections.
I think as far as I remember from these Niners post-game pods, this is the point where we're supposed to talk about Pagliacci pizza for like 45 minutes.
Look, a lot of people listened to that post-game pod, so maybe that was it. Maybe it was the Pagliacci that drove them in.
I will tell you.
Sadly, I did not have Pagliacci tonight. I had Little Woody's instead, so I can't speak to it in the same direct way that I was able to 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I had the spicy ranch soft taco chicken from Taco Time on my way into the game. It's a similar to, because we have to do this, it's a similar soft taco to their normal soft taco. It basically just flips the spicy ranch for the ranch. Right?
That's what I figured, yeah.
I gotta say, not as good.
You don't think it's as good with the spicy ranch? Interesting. I've not tried this.
I like the spicy ranch, but there's something about the ranch permeating everything that just makes all the flavors better. And so I think the play is do the normal soft taco with the ranch. Obviously, sub out the tomatoes for pico 100% of the time. Add in pumpkin seeds if you want, whatever your leisure is. Or corn salsa. Well, the corn salsa is phenomenal, by the way.
Spicy tater fries in there?
I did the regular because I wanted to do one of each. So I did the regular Mexi fries. But then you do the cup of spicy ranch on the side to dip in so that you're doubling it up. That's what I would do. That's the play.
I mean, we don't want to step on Talking Taco Time here, which we do badly need to record an episode. But the Taco Time Northwest announced this week the Greats After 8.
Hello. They are greats.
A value menu, including soft taco, crisp burrito, and crisp taco, tater fries, and I think drinks, reduced prices after 8 p.m. So very exciting development here. Definitely got multiple, not just the Talking Taco Time. There was a different group chat that got popping with this news.
Wow.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah. Anyways, it's a good place to be in. We're not going to be in that place with the championship games because the AFC Championship game will be taking place at noon next Sunday. The Seahawks
confirm that we're always the late game.
No, not always. In 2015, the Seahawks were the early game.
I guess I do remember that.
The late game, you'll recall, was the Deflategate game.
It was Colts. Was it Colts Patriots? Right.
It was Colts Patriots. Yes. So I have only the vaguest memories of that. Although probably
so the Texans are going to be there waiting for us. It's funny because that game, as the Mariners were playing in Game 7 of the ALCS, and I decided not to go. I did not think to myself I would be seeing a Super Bowl preview in that night.
Yes, not what anyone I think was thinking, especially when the score was what it was in the second quarter of that game, and Houston looked pretty inept offensively. I mean, this is something that my wife Grace observed about earlier tonight, like the fact that the Mariners were in the ALCS and the Seahawks now are in the NFC Championship game in the same year, it is a pretty bizarre confluence of success that we as Seattle sports fans are not accustomed to in any sense.
Let's go win one.
That's true. This is the team where it feels less urgent to win one because they did do it, but
It's been a while now.
more are always better. So we will be back.
I'd say
later
let's
in this-
look. The Seahawks were playing without George Holani, without Torrey Horton. Like, where is it not hobbled Seahawks dominate 49ers? Because if George Holani's out there, that's an extra chunk of yards, right?
The thing we didn't talk about is Doug Baldwin Jr. raising the
Hello,
12th man
that one was for
flag.
Renton, Washington, baby.
Yeah.
I loved it. I still the rumor was about that it was Pete Carroll, and I will
Yes.
say Pete Carroll, Las Vegas Raiders head coach. I don't dislike him or whatever, but like I didn't mind seeing the demise of Pete Carroll, Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Pete Carroll raising the 12th man flag. I am, as Seahawks legendary head coach, greatest head coach in Seahawks history, I am fucking hyped on. So there are two Pete Carrolls in all of us, and tonight. The Pete Carroll who says Sam Darnold doesn't need to do everything, can go 12 for 17, play a good enough game, and let the defense do his thing. That's the Pete Carroll that won today.
On that note,
I guess we'll be back next week previewing either Seahawks Bears for the NFC Championship or Seahawks Rams for the NFC Championship. It's a three-peat, or the Bears trying to go to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2000 and
they were in 2006, right? The year after the 2006 season calendar, 2007, the year after the Seahawks, right?
2006. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not been that long. We will be later with the weekly pod than usual this week. Still figure out exactly the time and date for that, but gonna be a big one.
I had no idea.
Preview the NFC Championship game and talk about the UW men's basketball. Sure played some notable teams this week.
Yeah, they played teams. It was so funny. And I do have to give one last just to the whole San Francisco 49ers to retire, bitch, because that one was a pathetic performance. Back-to-back weeks. We've been trying. I wanted to see a game. I wanted to see a game out there, but the San Francisco 49ers couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. The fans couldn't do it. The team couldn't do it. The GM couldn't do it. The coach couldn't do it. The defensive coordinator couldn't do it. Nobody on the field could. Watch Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. They have a Kubiak too?
Yes, their offensive coordinator is his brother.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I mean, he does very little, but good God.
I'm sure he still does a lot of work. He's not calling plays, but
I would just be like, good game, bud. Happy you tried. Nice performance out there. No, it was so funny. We got home and Luca was telling me that LeBron got ejected from the game against the Blazers. I thought that was what we were going to emergency pod. And I was like, man, that would have been so much fun to be at.
I somehow missed that, even though I was
coming home
from you
like that Seahawks game. I'm like, that would have been so much fun to be there. Because we couldn't even see a game from the 49ers.
Well, didn't see really much of a game from the Lakers either.
At least LeBron getting ejected. It would have been a lot more fun than seeing Christian McCaffrey do fucking a ton of motion to get a yard. Anyway, it was nice knowing you Niners run. See you later.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.